Hi guys, welcome to my garden. This is actually an old video. Unfortunately, I had to have cataract surgery, and back in April when this video should have come out, I just couldn't see well enough to do any editing. So this is about 6 to 7 hours of video kind of condensed into a short video that shows what I've spent the last, what I did to prepare my garden this year. You can see I've got two new raised beds on this end of the garden, and this is the bed. The last one is going to be the bed that I do my tomatoes in. That's the Romas I just laid out. In the big pot is a cherry tomato, and then I've got some trip L's, crimson, and some big reds that I'm putting in. Now guys, note to self, this is note to future me, please remember to plant everything this way. Little handful of bone meal, little handful of blood meal, and throw that in the hole. Mix it together in the hole before adding your plant. You'll see just in a few minutes here what really ends up happening. Even though I pull the fertilizer out, I forget to plant with it. So I have to kind of go back and not redo, but just top dress it instead of adding it to the hole. I think it really prefers to be down there where the roots are, but it's okay. This all works out fine. This particular earth medicine fertilizer is a new to me fertilizer. I saw the owners of the company on a seed time class that I had listened to and went ahead and purchased some of that. So that is a new to me fertilizer. We'll see how it does. You apply that one about every 6 weeks. Here's my bromas. Now I've got, I think, 7 to 9 of each of these varieties. And in this case, I think I had a full 9 plants. So I'm doing kind of a square foot gardening. So these are going in pretty close, and I will kind of trim up the leaves from the bottom to get airflow in the bottom. And these are doing really great now. 2 months in the future, fantastic. All these starts are kind of leggy, which is great because if you plant them deep, in my case, I'm planting them kind of laterally, they'll form roots and be nice and strong. This is that purchased cherry tomato that I transplanted into a pot, so I'm kind of pulling off some of that potting soil, and I'll reuse that. And then now I'm starting the big boys, the slicer tomatoes. This is the Trip L variety, and again, I think I had 7 of these. I don't know. Let's say 5 to 7 of each of these big slicers. But we're just trying some varieties. I bought, I think, the Crimson and the Trip L from M.I. Gardner. The Big Red is a tomato seed that I've had for a couple years. I'm just trying to use up. We'll see how those all compare. I've still got the labels on them now. This is future me talking, where I can see how they're doing, and I'm really liking the size of most of these tomatoes. Some of them seem to have more lobes, or I don't know if there are splits that have healed. I don't know what it is that causes the tomato to be globish instead of round, but we'll see what happens. Now, first for me is these Bonnie onion starts that I've bought. This little bundle was only about $5, and there's, in my case, 60 starts. So I'm lining each of my 2 beds kind of on the shady side of the bed with these onion sets, and we'll see how they do. And I can tell you, in this bed, this tomato bed that they got shaded earlier, they've done really well. Not huge, softball size onions, but a good fist size onion in most cases. So I plan on doing this again. The second bed, something ate them, and I don't know if it was a bird pulling them up, but they just didn't do well. Now we're on to my green peppers and some Anaheim peppers. I did purchase from Bonnie 2 green pepper plants, bell peppers. And luckily, the ones I picked both had 2 plants in them. So I took those 2 and divided them. So I got 4 bell peppers and 2 Anaheim peppers. The Anaheims I grew from seed. And then I do have one other, I'm not sure if it's an Anaheim or a bell pepper that I grew from seed that I add at a later date. It goes in probably within a week of these going in. So everything looked really good though. Look at those peppers. Aren't they pretty? And compared again to last year when my starts were all teeny tiny and I probably planted them way too early. This year things are just wonderful. We get our labels on, we'll finish planting those up, and we're going to plant and fertilize and then water everything in good. Now on the other end of this planting bed, we've had this tarp over the in-ground area of the bed. So I'm going to just get all of these leaves and sweet gum pods and everything off here and get this tarp cleaned up so we can store that away for next year. The first thing we're going to get in the ground down here is the lettuce, and this is kind of on the shadier end of the spectrum down here. I've got a couple cabbage also. And then along the fence line, we're going to do these snap peas and rattlesnake green beans. You can see the snap peas I've had up for, I think in February I planted those, and just starting to get little pods from those. And that definitely worked better planting those real early because they just came on when the weather warmed up enough for them. They came on and, you know, provided us a couple dinners of snow peas and lots of handfuls while working in the garden. Here I am deciding where my rows are going to be for my sweet corn, and then putting some just leaf mold mulch onto the cardboard over the walkways. This is working pretty well. It's probably better than nothing, but in the leaf mold there's still weed seeds, and you know, you still have to weed, but it's much easier to weed from this type of surface than from the clay surface below it. So I do recommend doing this if this is something you haven't done before. And now we're just going to finish up the rest of the bed and leaf mold everything in. Here I am planting my double sweet corn. This is cheap seed packets from Walmart. I bought about 6 of them and used most of them in both this initial seeding of these 4 rows of sweet corn, and then what didn't come up I filled in with the rest of the sweet corn seeds that I had. I do have just maybe a packet and a little bit left. We'll get that all watered in. I've got some marigolds in those little black pots up front. And here I've got just some all-purpose fertilizer that I'm putting down. I've got some organic fertilizer that is left over from my straw bales last year. So here's how we're looking. Oh, I forgot to show you planting the zucchinis in the foreground there. And you can see future that big spaces for melons and other squashes that will be going in later. Here's my corn. And then down to the lettuce. I've also put in, for the first time ever, a few red and white potato starts. We'll see how all that does. But then we've got a couple little projects we're going to work on too. And the first one is the tomato support system. I'm going to use tomato clips this year with strings running from the top of the support down to the ground level where I'll stake them in right next to the root of the tomato. And I'm going to do that for all the slicer tomatoes. The Romas at the front toward the front of the screen, those are just going to be supported with tomato cages. This was another Jackie project, and I'm honestly not really thinking. I've made a couple mistakes. First of all, my boot size barely fits between the 12 or 15 inches that I allowed between the planting beds, these raised beds. So that will be changed next year. Too late for this year, but next year we'll get that changed. And so I can't get a ladder into this side. So we're trying to figure out maybe we can use some clamps, and that's not going to work. Guys, this was my husband the whole time is like, what are we doing? And, I'm just kind of not thinking about answering him. I'm just thinking about how I'm going to get these supported so I can get them screwed in. Well, guess what? This just doesn't work. It's not safe for us. And so we end up unscrewing these supports, and we're just going to take all of this wood and we're going to do it on the carport. And it still wasn't a perfectly planned out project. In fact, you'll see at the end, it kind of looks like from Star Wars. Remember those big ship like things that walked like robots? I can't remember. Storm walk. I can't remember what they were called, but that's kind of what this thing ends up looking like. It does the job that we want it to do, but you'll see. And it wouldn't be a Jackie project if you weren't trying to use up what we had on hand. So we've got some untreated 2x4s and a couple 1x2s that we're gonna use to make this structure. And during the process of it, Rod didn't realize how flimsy it was apparently, so he let go, not once, but twice, and cracked one of the supports that we end up having to kind of mend in a couple plates here, you'll see, and kind of shore those up. I'm about 85% certain that this will last the season, but this all remains to be seen. First, we have to get it out from under the carport, get it flipped over, and then walked into the garden bed itself. And this is a typical Jackie project. The other project we finished during this time was our little water feature. This is a very small pond with some stacked stones in my old kitchen herb garden area. So these are existing. Up too high was our existing raised planter for our herbs, and now we've added another row of these wall blocks into a circle to get the depth of the water itself is 8 to 10 inches tall, and then it circulates by a pump into the little spillway for the waterfall. This was about a $200 project and well worth it. And here's our first fire of the season. It's still nice and cool at night, so this was fantastic.